Hey y'all. Well, look what I found. Actually, it's just the next video in the list. Xfinity at Watkins Glen. Hopefully what you'll take away from this is, first, is not how terrible of a road course driver I am, but some of the things that you deal with on a road course. I race full races, so, you know, you're talking full fuel runs, tires gotta last, so on and so forth. Now, Xfinity races are shorter than Cup races, so, you know, you don't have as much time. I forget what the stages are, but I think the longest stage is like 25 laps or something like that. Because the road course races, since it's a 2.45 mile track, that's almost the size of, say, Indianapolis, Pocono, or Daytona. You know, you don't need as many laps, you know, to cover the distances. And traditionally on road courses, they usually measure them in kilometers. So you're usually talking 300 miles as a long road course race. Although I think that's different now. I haven't done the calculation in a long time. I remember in the 90s when they started, you know, they would call it the, I don't know, Sonoma 300, and it was, you know, 300 kilometers or 299 kilometers, whatever. Anyway, so here we are, and this is like the last run. This is when I decide it's go time, because the rest of the race I was just, you know, seeing how screwed up my setup was. This is my setup. I have been racing at Watkins Glen since 1989, so I do know a little bit about how to get around here, and it's a fast, not that technical road course, which usually translates to it's more fun than most. I know the road course hounds, you know, who are tremendous drivers and have their own, you know, skill in this. This is you know, not a great road course unless you put the boot in. The boot is the part they cut out for NASCAR to keep the length of a lap to be a certain, you know, like under 2.5 in the Cup Series. I'm not really sure what they do on the longer road courses, but anyway, because other series, NASCAR series race there, as you know, Xfinity, Trucks, Road America, etc. Speaking of Road America, they did a lot of qualifying last night, and I had the benefit of using a wonderful Pro League setup, and, you know, did some laps filling out the qualifying, because you do need 5 guys for your time to count. Even though it's just testing, this is probably how, you know, showing us how, when qualifying starts on the 12th, is the way it's going to be. So I was basically just there rounding out stuff, and I picked up a ridiculous amount of time, because I have not raced at Road America ever. It wasn't something I was really interested in. I mean, I did an iRacing on, you know, like street cars and stuff, so I kind of know the basic layout. But, you know, one of the things about road course racing is you need to know every turn, every chicane, every foot of the track as either something to deal with or something not to deal with. And what I mean by that is, you know, on the straightaway, you don't have to deal anything at this point, but to get past the start-finish line, aside from shift point, now you got to worry about your braking zones. Now you got to look behind you and look in front of you, and while you are slowing down to a speed you can make the corner and not blow it, and then not hit the gas too hard as the tires wear and spin them and spin yourself out. You know, there's so much going on at a road course. It's like you can't do anything else. That's probably why I threw the record button on, because I was like, okay, it's go time. I'll just throw it on and it'll be on. And if I want to, I can always edit it, but I never edit it. Here, I blew it. See, blew it. Blew that.
Left side.
Now, I can make excuses, but I'm not going to. I blew it. But I will say I have no brake smoothing on here because this is before I learned about it. And, you know, running Road America in the Cup car last night, brake smoothing, oh, I wish I had it here. Might have been able to pull off a top 10. Definitely, well, most probably would not have ended the way it ended, and you'll see coming up. And there, I didn't do that on purpose. I hit the brakes. That's a brake thing, and it pulled me to the right because I hit it a little bit too hard onto the grass. And I just went with it. You know, I'm not going to wreck anybody on purpose, but, you know, if I get into a situation like that, I just went with it. You know, it's a road course. I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I'm coming up through the pack. It's not a traditional road course race where you have typically longer runs and you have a lot more separation between the cars. You know, this is hugger-mugger. Let's stick my nose in and see if I can get through and whatnot. And that a lot of times is how the Xfinity and the Truck Series end up having to race road courses. So the advantage tends to go towards the NASCAR racer in those things. But when you have the longer runs and the tires get worn, and you know, then the skill tends to rise to the top. Not that NASCAR drivers are not also, you know, awesome road course drivers. It's just not what you do on a weekly basis. You know, you're thinking oval. I'm glad the last few years they've added road courses to the lower series. I think, what is it, Xfinity have 3 road course races, and they're fairly grouped together, which I like, because you get in a mode of racing one type of racing, you know, one type of track, and it kind of like, it sticks a little bit better. So to have, you know, like 3 of their road course races, what are they, all in August or something like that? Within like a month or 5 weeks or something. That's cool. That's good. That helps drivers learn, you know, or become better at it. And there's no substitute for laps. A road course is one of those exceptions to my rule. Race it, because often for conditions and to really fine-tune your setup, but there's so much speed in just knowing the track and keeping it between the white lines that I think a lot of people ignore. You get, especially in sim racing, you get so setup oriented, and it's like, well, if I had a better setup, you know, I don't particularly care for default setup, you know, online racing and stuff like that. I understand the value of it and whatnot, but it's just not my thing. But, you know, every once in a while I'll participate in, you know, a night where we just go and do stuff, and, well, guys, okay, we're doing default racing. All right. So, you know, I'm like, what's the number? Where, you know, where we are, how loose, how tight, and so on and so forth. But, you know, you go to a road course, and, you know, like I said, it's more how well you know the track and your own personal experience and skill. Road course probably closest you get to street, to driving on the street, you know, like left and right, you know? It's very non-asymmetrical, very, a very, you know, even chassis setup for the most part, with some tweaks, you know. So, you know, you turn left, it turns left the same way it turns right for the most part. And it's a little bit easier to get a handle on, but it's also tougher. I mean, look at these walls. Look at it. It's like, you know, 3 cars wide is the road surface, and then half a car on each side until you get the barriers in the Armco. Those are called Armco because of the type and shape they are, invented by a guy, and they called them Armco. I forget if his name was Armco or something. But anyway, they're soft. They will not completely contain a car. And Watkins Glen has them, as you see, this huge runoff areas where there's no grandstands and such, and so it kind of works instead of safer barriers at Watkins Glen. Anyway, so, you know, there's a lot of speed to be had in just how you drive, you know, because during a road course race on a particular run, your car or truck is gonna change so much. It'll get loose, like I'm loose now, you know, I'm not terribly loose, but if we run longer, you know, a lot longer, I'm gonna get a lot looser. You know, it might get tight, you know, and so a default setup is just, you know, how your car might be at a particular point in the run. It's not really good or bad, you know. Yes, it might not be the fastest, and I'm talking about, you know, drivability, which should be the first thing that you go for in a setup. You know, you got to be able to drive it. If you can't drive it, you can't get enough information as to if it's good, bad, or how you're doing, you know, if you're just that slow. If you're just that slow because you can't drive it, you know. I have some great setups that they're really hard to drive. In fact, I did my Cup 2 times single series championship race at Dover, and had a good setup. I ended up winning the race, but it was like driving on snow. You know, after about 5 laps, I adjusted it. I got it better, because I'm still struggling with what the Cup cars need. So at least I'm starting out fast. I mean, I had a top 10 car to start. During most of the race, it was a top 5 car. And at the end, yeah, I did pull some strategy, but I found out in the Cup Series, it's harder to get through traffic, number one. Number two, it takes longer to do it regardless. Your speed is not as much faster on fresher tires, it seems, overall, as in the lower series. Now, I put tires on a truck in that situation at Dover, and it's like, you know, I was 24th, you know, with as old as the tires the AI had, I could have blown through the field and gotten first place in like 4 laps. That's not a boast. You can watch some of my videos. I do that at times. It's not easy, and you need a lot of luck, but I have done it. And in Cup, you can't really do that, and I couldn't tonight, you know, either. But I knew that going in, so I raced those last laps a bit differently. I think I ended up with about 13 laps, and I was in 24th place. The other good thing that aided me tremendously is I figured something out in the gearing for Dover that got me my advantage pretty much like I have it in Xfinity and trucks at Dover. And that's the first track other than Daytona and Talladega that I was able to seem to have managed it. Now, see that? If I had brake smoothing, that probably wouldn't have happened. Because on older tires, and when I hit the brakes, it pulled it to the right. I thought I would clear it, because I didn't think it pulled it that much, but I was wrong. With brake smoothing, it probably wouldn't have pulled it. Probably. Well, he tested it out later on. And here, I'm so upset at what happened. I had a brain fart there. Totally on me, you know, but, you know, I figured I hit everything. Where's that pace car, you know? And as I'm rewatching this, you know, I noticed that my damage, it's like I have damage all around the car now, except for that the left side, the driver's side, you know, middle. So, and I go back to Days of Thunder, you know, when Cole comes into the pits and Buck says, "Oh, look, a side we don't have to fix." And Harry kicks it in and says, "I don't want you to get spoiled, Buck." Yeah. So, you know, this is what learning's about. You know, at least that was the only crash I had, and I didn't take anybody else with me. And the car's still running pretty good, which is a little weird, but okay, I'll take it. So I'm just trying to get as good a finish as I can. And it's funny, with the tires worn down, even this little, it's only, you know, like 15%, you know, pushing 20%, you know, kind of thing. I'm like, this not handling see it loose. I had to baby it. I couldn't get up next to Clements and maybe make a move on him. You know, I got to be gingered through here. I'm not as radical with the steering. So I'm really driving it a lot more than I thought I would need to at this point. And I'm like, don't hit, don't hit, don't hit. Yeah, we missed it. Okay. So am I on the last lap? So I'm just like, let's go, come on, let's see if I can get Clements. No. See, my right-handers are not as good as I would like them. They're a little tight, if you notice. The left front, which would indicate tight on a mostly right-hand course, or right-hand turn course. Yeah, a little too tight in that way.
Left side. All right.
Yeah. See, almost lost it there. See, the two guys behind me are faster than me. The guy behind them, I'm faster than, but these two guys, they are faster than me at some important points in the course, like that left-hander before the last turn. Yeah, that's one of my weak points, because the car stopped turning. And as you can see why, because the left front is way hotter than the right front. And it's kind of like I want to make the car do the opposite of what it wants to do. I want to make the car go fast right around an oval. You know, it just doesn't want to do that at this point. So I'll have to address that. I got the wrong brake bias. I learned that during the race. And with brake smoothing, I can actually put a correct or more correct brake bias in. Because without the brake smoothing, my setups, I realized that I can't set the brakes for racing. I have to set the brakes for pitting. And you need more front brake, you know, for pitting on old tires in this. And that's not great for racing in most cases. But with brake smoothing, I can trim it more, the brakes for racing and helping you get through the corners. 14th, first full race at Watkins Glen. I'm not upset about that at all. Nope, can't be. See, I didn't even qualify. I just started tail end Charlie. I tend to do that at tracks where I really need the experience more than the position. I have a ton of wins in this series, and I'm in contention for the championship. So it was about starting my road course education in NASCAR Heat 4. Raced in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 other sims. 13 maybe. I've raced road courses. But especially with the new tire wear added in, this is different. This is more like, much more like real life. Oh, okay, so I got into one wreck with somebody else. That was totally me. Yeah, he slowed down. I had a good run. I didn't expect him to be that slow. I think I might have made an adjustment that hurt me in the carousel there. That part's called the carousel, for those who don't know. See, I start at the end. Go, when a caution came out, I pit, make an adjustment. See, when I hit the brakes, it slid up. With the right brake bias, I wouldn't slide up. And plus locked up too, so lost all rear grip there. It's probably the rear tires that locked. I don't know. You can't really tell in Heat 4's feedback, which is something that I wish was better. But you know, you deal with it because there's just so much else that's good about it. Stage 2, so 20 lap stages. So this must be like 40 or 50 laps to the end, because I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I stayed out. I just stayed out. I'm like, you know, this is the last run. Let's see if I can run with the leaders. And you know, for how long? See, I'm pushing. It just stopped turning there on old tires, and oh, okay, I didn't remember that. Yep, so messed up Austin Cindric. He's probably not going to be too happy. Yeah, they slow down on a restart. Stupid slow. I can get through this turn at about between 65 and 75 usually by myself, you know, whatever, if I got my line. But on that restart, they slow down to like 40 miles an hour into turn 1. And you gotta be aware of that, or else, you know, you're just gonna bang your nose up and then you'll hurt yourself around all the fast turns being tight. Or just weird, because it can just get weird. That's when we got together there. So it was like 3 or 4 incidents that I caused. Oh, cool. Well, it could have been a lot worse. I could have wrecked. Well, I mean, other than that one time. See, if you saw what happened there, I locked up, and it just shot right. Hopefully that's an issue. Brake smoothing would help tremendously. See, and all that locking up and herky-jerkiness. That just went with it that time, because I half expected it. I get Cindric again. Oh, he's not going to be happy with me. Oh, yeah, that's when I blew the turn completely. '14th. I still think that's, you know, decent for as little road course racing as I've done over the past 10 years. And, you know, what I realized is I could have raced a different race. I just wasn't sure about the setup and what I would expect, even with all the little issues. If I raced differently, I didn't hang at the back and I didn't pit all the time, I probably could have managed a top 10, maybe, you know, and not wrecked as much. Because, you know, when you're going full out, you know, it's like, it's hard to, I know it's replaying, it'll stop in a sec. It's hard to, you know, it was my first full road course race. I did race here in Heat 3, and I think I ended up with the top 10, actually. But it was a totally different system setup, and I hit a lot more guys because the brakes were even worse in Heat 3. But, yeah, it's just so much going on, you know, and there's no substitute for practice. You just got to race them, you know, just put the laps in. Road courses are more technical, usually. I find ovals technical too, once you really get to know them. But there's something about ovals that there's a more of a generic learning curve. It's like, okay, how far can I drive into this corner? How deep can I get out of that? And there's 4 corners, you know, on an oval. 6 at Pocono, 3 turns, 4, 2 turns, 4 turns, however you want to make it. But, you know, you get to Watkins Glen, and some people argue there's 11 turns, you know, and they're right. And some people say there's 7, and they're right. It depends on how you look at it, you know. You go down to one end of an oval, and is 1 turn or 2 turns? Because you're making 1 turn, but it's 2 corners. And technically, each of those corners is a turn, because it's 1 turn there, and then another turn there around the other side. So how you drive them, and you guys know from racing, you know, each turn you might have to drive differently. I mean, look at Indy. You know, I drive into turn 1 one way, I drive off turn 2 a different way, I drive into turn 3 one way, and I drive off turn 4 a different way. So there you go. That's 4 turns. It's a 4-turn road course. Just turning all the same way. Now, when you're turning the other way, you know, like through the S's and stuff, that can be very tricky for some people, because you're moving the weight of the car drastically from, you know, 180 degrees one way to another, and the car can get very unstable or like light very quickly, and you can get into trouble very quickly. So you do need some experience, and you do need just how it feels. And you don't need a super fast setup to do that. Just take a neutral setup and just put it down the middle, you know, at 5 or whatever, you know, just set it, keep it right in the middle, and just learn how to drive it. You just got to do it. Just drive it. And the more you drive it, the more it'll become familiar, and the more it becomes familiar, the easier, you know, it gets, kind of thing. So, oh, that was it. For some reason, it didn't go longer. Yeah, so thank you all for watching. Please, if you can, hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button if you like it a lot. And keep rolling, y'all.